Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ayin Dalet, Daf 74 of Masechet Yevamos. Friends, who can tell me what Daf 74? It's a good thing it makes me laugh, you know? Let me tell you, alright? Well, I don't know if it makes you laugh, but... Well, who can tell me what Daf 74 talks about? Well, continues talking about like Meiser Sheni. Can an oral eat Meiser Sheni? Important question. And then we go into Tamei people eating Meiser Sheni. So, all in all, fun stuff. Friends, let's jump in on Daf Ayin Gimel Mebez. 6 lines from the bottom by the two dots. V'ochlun betumas atzman loke mashe'ein kein bitruma. Okay, so we had said somebody who eats Meiser Sheni or Bikurim when the Meiser Sheni or the Bikurim is Tameh. So, friends, what do? Take out a whip and we whip the fellow. What am I tell you? So, Mashen came B'Truma, which is not the case by Truma. We don't whip a fellow for eating Truma that's Tameh. Milkud lolaka isur ikana. The Gemara says, look, while we may not whip a fellow for eating truma that's tameya, nonetheless, it's also. Minolan, how do we know this? Amar Kra, the pasuk says, B'sharecha tochalenu, that it says in the context of a bechor, right, a firstborn animal that contracts a mum, that you can then sell it, and then it becomes chulin, or no, you can be podet, and then it becomes, and then you can eat it, and then you can even eat it when it's tameh. Velola acher, but not some other thing, and that other thing is a reference to truma, that if truma is tameh, you may not eat it. And now the prohibition against eating truma that is tameh, so it's learned out from an implication of the fact that it's saying that you're allowed to eat the bechor that got a mum when it's tameh, implying that truma you're not allowed to eat when it's tameh, and therefore a law that comes from an implication we treat as sort of an essay, right? Meaning if it says you're allowed to eat the bechor, implying that you're not allowed to eat truma, so then we treat it in the same way as we apply the essay of eating the bechor. So we then imply a los essay, but it only has the stringency of mitzvah's essay, and therefore no whipping. Omer Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi, Mereisha Nami Shmasmila Detana V'Shayir. Okay. Says Rav Ashi that actually you can even imply from the Reisha that Tana V'Shayir. Who can remember what this is talking about? Well, yesterday we tried to bring a proof from the fact that we have a brisa in which we list different ways in which Truma and Bikurim are more stringent than Meiser Sheni. Now, what it did not say is that an Orel is also by Truma and by Bikurim, yet an Orel is permitted by Meiser Sheni, implying that an Orel is forbidden by Meiser Sheni. And then we say, well, actually, you could say that maybe an Orel is permitted by I don't know what I just said, meaning from the fact that we did not list Orel as a situation which is stringent by Truma and Bikurim and lenient and permitted by Meiser Sheni, must imply that an Orel is also by Meiser Sheni, just like an Orel is also by Truma and by Bikurim. Now, the Gemara had said, actually, maybe you could say that actually by Meiser Sheni an Orel is permitted. So why wasn't it listed as a difference? So you could say, well, there were other things that weren't listed also. The Gemara says, okay, what else wasn't listed? To which the Gemara then said, oh, well, in the Seifa they left out a few things. So if we could say that the same thing applies to the Reisha. Now it says Rav Ashi, actually you could find things by the Reisha as well, i.e. by the comparison between Truma and Bikurim on the one hand and Meiser Sheni on the other hand. You can, in fact, find other things that were not listed in that brisa, or I think Mishnah actually, Amar Ravashi says Ravashi Mereisha Nami Shmas Mina Detana V'Shayir Midlo Katani, from the fact that it also left out V'Nagim B'Shar Shnei Shavua, that when it comes to Truma and when it comes to Bikurim, they apply all of the years of the Shemitah cycle. Masha Ein Kain by Meiser Sheni, which is only years 1, 2, 4, and 5. Ve'en Lo'im Pidyon, and when it comes to Truma and when it comes to Bikurim, there's no way of redeeming them. You can't redeem Truma, you can't redeem Bikurim. As opposed to Meiser Sheni, of course, you could transfer it onto money and bring the money to Jerusalem, and then you can eat the fruits wherever you want. So Masha'en came b'Meiser. And both of these things, right, these are differences regarding Truma and Bikurim on the one hand, and Meiser Sheni on the other hand. Shmamina. So we do see, so says Rav Ashi, we see also from, even that Mishnah itself, the Reisha, with regards to Truma and Bikurim on the one hand, and Meiser Sheni on the other hand, left out additional things, and we could say that therefore it left out Orel as well, and you can argue, though, that Orel would be permitted by Meiser Sheni. Toshma, Komenir, Nishtarbu Tzitzin Amakvenis Amila, Givaldig. If you have a fellow who got somewhat of a bris milah, not enough, so he's considered an Orel. So Areza Eno Ochel Lo B'Truma, so he's not allowed to eat Truma. V'lo B'Pesach, he's not allowed to eat Korban Pesach. V'lo B'Kochim, he's not allowed to eat Korbanos. V'lo B'Meiser, and he's not allowed to eat Meiser Sheni either. Well, Meiser either. My lab, Meiser Dogon. So Mistom, it's talking about Meiser Sheni. So what are we saying? So we're saying that an Orel is forbidden from eating Meiser Sheni. Well, there you go. So, and for the Gemara, Lo Meiser Behema. No, it's not talking about Meiser Sheni, it's talking about Meiser Behema. Then Orel is not allowed to eat Meiser Behema. Meiser Behema Anu Kodshim. But Meiser Behema is just Korbanos, right? What's Meiser Behema? You have animals, and you take 10% of the animals, and you give it to the Kohen. So, and it's Korbanos. We're saying that an Orel is not allowed to eat Meiser. We wanted to say that it's talking about Meiser Sheni, to which the Gemara says, no, it's not talking about Meiser Sheni, it's talking about Meiser Behema. But Meiser Behema is just Korbanos. For the time, Milotnan Pesach v'Kotoni Kodshim, to which the Gemara says, yeah, but so what? If we look at this Brisa, what does it say? Nishtar, I'm going to read it again. Nishtar bo tzitzin makvenes amila areze enu ochel lo b'truma v'lo b'pesach v'lo b'kodshim v'lo b'meiser. You can't eat, right, among other things, it says you can't eat the korban pesach, and you can't eat kodshim. Aren't those both korbanos? Kilu. So even if we say that meiser is talking about meiser behema, and yes, so what? So meiser behema is kodshim, but so is korban pesach, and it listed that as well. So b'shlama pesach v'kodshim tzrichei. So Gemara says, yeah, but I understand why we needed to specify both korban pesach and kodshim, because the itana pesach mishum da'arelus b'pesach ksiva. Because if it would only list korban pesach and say that an Orel is not allowed to eat the korban pesach, I would say, okay, beseder, because Orel is explicitly written in the context of korban pesach about kodshim emalo. But I might think that an Orel would be allowed to eat kodshim, just not the korban pesach. So therefore I had to write kodshim as well. V'itana kodshim, and if it would only say kodshim, havmina my kodshim pesach, I might think, what is the kodshim? The kodshim is dafka the korban pesach, and that's what an Orel is not allowed to eat. So therefore we had to mention korban pesach, we had to mention kodshim, ela meiser behema lomali. But why should I need meiser behema? That doesn't make any sense, right? Meaning, I know that an Orel is not allowed to eat korban pesach, I know that an Orel is not allowed to eat kodshim in general. Why would I then have to say that an Orel is not allowed to eat meiser behema? Of course, an Orel is not allowed to eat meiser behema. It's not allowed to eat any kodshim. So therefore, it must not be talking about meiser behema. It must be talking about Meiser Sheni, and we're saying that an Orel is not allowed to eat Meiser Sheni. Says the Gemara, no, Ela Meiser Rishon. You could say that actually that it's not talking about Meiser Sheni, it's not talking about Meiser Behema either. It's talking about Meiser Rishon, and it's saying that an Orel is not allowed to eat Meiser Rishon. Reb Meir he Dama Meiser Rishon also the Zarim, and it's according to Reb Meir who says that Meiser Rishon is not allowed to be eaten by non-Levites. Right, meaning Meiser Rishon is, right, 10% of the field that you give to the Levite. Now, according to Reb Meir, right, that Levite is not allowed to give it to anybody else, right, to any non-Levim. And therefore, just like Reb Meir is stringent regarding Meiser Rishon to the extent that a non-Kohen is forbidden, a non-Levi is forbidden from eating Meiser Rishon. So therefore also we'll say that according to Reb Meir, an Orel is also not allowed to eat Meiser Rishon. So we could say that this Braise is Davke according to Reb Meir, and when we're saying that you don't eat the korban, that an Orel doesn't eat korban Pesach, an Orel doesn't eat kachim, an Orel also doesn't eat Meiser, it's talking about Meiser Rishon according to Reb Meir. Okay, Tashma coming here. Midtanu Reb Chia bar Rab Midifti Orel Osir B'Shtei Meisers. That Reb Chia bar Rab Midifti taught that an Orel is forbidden from eating two Meisers. We're talking about Meiser Sheni and also Meiser Behema, and we're saying that an Orel is forbidden from eating Meiser Sheni. Meiser Rishon Reb Meir. No, here also we could say it's not talking about Meiser Sheni, it's talking about Meiser Rishon according to Reb Meir, who's stringent by Meiser Rishon, and therefore an Orel is not allowed to eat Meiser Rishon, but it's not necessarily, according to Reb Meir, but it's not necessarily a proof that an Orel is forbidden from eating Meiser Sheni. Tashma coming here. Onein Osir b'Meiser. That an Onein, right, somebody whose relative passed away and was not yet buried, Osir b'Meiser is forbidden from eating Meiser Sheni, right? It says, L'chalti b'Oni mimenu. Umuter b'Truma, an Onein is permitted to eat Truma. Uvepare, and an Onein is permitted to sprinkle the Meichatas of the Paraduma. Tvul Yom, when it comes to a fellow who was Tameh and went to the mikveh and just needs to wait till the evening. Osir b'Truma, he's not allowed, if he's a kohen, he's not allowed to eat Truma until the evening, until the night. Umuter b'Pare, Tvul Yom, as we learned yesterday, or was it the day before even, that Tvul Yom is permitted to sprinkle the Meichatas of the Paraduma. What did I say? So, I don't know what I just said. Tvul Yom Osir b'Truma, right? A Tvul Yom is forbidden from eating Truma, as we learned in the first half of Shas, that a Tvul Yom needs to wait until the night in order to eat Truma. Umuter b'Pare, he's permitted to do to sprinkle the Meichatas of the Paraduma, Meiser, and a Tvul Yom is permitted to eat Meiser, right? Meiser Sheni, once he comes out of the mikveh, he can eat Meiser Sheni. Mechusar Kippurim, what about if you have somebody like a Zav, right? So a Zav who saw Ziva 3 times, so then when he becomes Taurus, he goes to the mikveh and he's Mechusar Kippur, he's a Tvul Yom till the end of the day, and then he needs to wait till the next day, and then he offers korbanos. So even after he goes to the mikveh, and even after the nightfall comes, still he needs to wait till the next day to offer his korbanos, and until he offers his korbanos is what's called the Mechusar Kippurim, that he is somebody who has not yet offered his korbanos. Osir b'Paras, so Mechusar Kippurim is not allowed to sprinkle the Para Adume, Umuter b'Truma, and a Mechusar Kippurim is permitted to eat Truma, Uvemeiser, and is also permitted to eat Meiser Sheni, right? As we learned in the first half of Shas, that Mechusar Kippurim comes the nighttime, he's allowed to eat Truma, he just cannot eat kachim and stuff till the next day. Or we're saying over here he would be unable to sprinkle the Paraduma. Okay, Vim Isa. And if it is true that an Orel is permitted to eat Meiser Sheni, well then, Nisne Orel Osir b'Truma Mutter b'Paru Meiser. Right? If it's so that an Orel is permitted to eat Meiser Sheni, well then, Nisne, let it teach that just like, by a Tvul Yom, so also an Orel, Osir b'Truma, he's not allowed to eat Truma, Umutter b'Pare, and he's permitted to sprinkle the Efer Para Adume, Meiser is permitted to eat Meiser Sheni. So from the fact that we did not list an Orel over here, must mean that an Orel is Osir from eating Meiser Sheni. Haitana Dvei Rabbi Akiva. No, this brisa is Davka, a brisa of Rabbi Akiva, the Marbile L'Orel Ketame, who treats an Orel like a Tame, Titana, as we learned. Rabbi Akiva Omer Ish, the Rabbi says Orel in the context of Truma, it says ish to include an Orel, i.e. that we treat an Orel like Tame people, like a Zav, Tsarua. So we treat a Orel like somebody who's Tame, and therefore he would be unable to sprinkle the ashes of the Para Adume. Okay, so that's Davka Rabbi Akiva's opinion. But we cannot necessarily learn out from there that an Orel is also from eating Meiser Sheni. It's Dafka the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who says that an Orel is considered like somebody who's Tameh, and that's why you would be unable to eat Meiser Sheni. And now, effectively, Gemara, Umantana de Polygol Edu Rabbi Akiva, and who is the Tana that argues on Rabbi Akiva? No, we had learned, where did we learn this? I think on Ayin Beis Beis. Yeah, we learned on Ayin Beis Beis that an Orel is allowed to sprinkle the mechatos of the para aduma. Rabbi Akiva disagreed and said an Orel is not allowed to sprinkle the ashes of the para aduma. So now, said Frekti Gemara, Mantana de Polygol de Rabbi Akiva. So who is that brisa? Who is the author of that brisa who said that an Orel is allowed to sprinkle the mechatas of the para aduma? So Mantana de Polygol de Rabbi Akiva, Tana de Rav Yosef Ababli. It is the Tanakama in the brisa with Yosef Ababli, the Tanya. So we learn in the brisa, Sreifas oninu muchusur kippurim kishere. That says the Tanakama over here in this brisa that if you have an onin or a mechusar kippurim who burns the para aduma, it's kosher. Rav Yosef Abavli Omer says Rav Yosef Abavli onin kshera, that an onin is allowed to sprinkle the ashes of the para aduma. Mechusar kippurim psul, but mechusar kippurim is not allowed to. So what do we see? So we see that according to the Tanakama, a mechusar kippurim is allowed to sprinkle the mechatas. Now, according to Rabbi Akiva, in the brisa that we just learned, mamish like a few lines ago, right, which we said was, according to Rabbi Akiva, we had said that a mechusar kippurim is not allowed to burn the, is not allowed to sprinkle, is not, and now we're saying not allowed to burn the para aduma. And therefore, if Rabbi Akiva says that, you'd be unable to do the avodah with the para aduma as a mechusar kippurim, and the Tanakam over here is saying that a mechusar kippurim would be allowed to burn the para aduma. So therefore, it must be no. So we see that this Tanakam is arguing on Rabbi Akiva regarding mechusar kippurim. So we want to say that just like this Tanakam argues with Rabbi Akiva regarding a mechusar kippurim doing the sprinkling of the ashes of the para aduma, so also this Tanakama would disagree with Rabbi Akiva regarding an Orel, and this Tana would say that an Orel is permitted to sprinkle the ashes of the para aduma. Okay, fine. Rabbi Yitzchak also holds that an Orel is not allowed to eat Meiser Sheni, just like Rabbi Akiva holds that way. The Amar Yitzchak that says Rabbi Yitzchak minayin the Orel shall also be Meiser. How do you know that an Orel is not allowed to eat Meiser Sheni? Nemar mimenu b'Meiser, nemar mimenu b'Pesach. It says mimenu by Meiser Sheni, and it says mimenu by Korban Pesach. Ma mimenu ha'omer b'Pesach Orel osebo. Just like by Korban Pesach, an Orel is forbidden. Af mimenu ha'omer b'Meiser Orel osebo. So also when it says mimenu by Meiser Sheni, an Orel is not allowed to partake. Mufni, and we say that mimenu is available for a gezer shavati lo mufne, because if mimenu was not available to learn out in a gezer shavat, I can ask the following question: Ma'ale Pesach shekin chayav and olav mishum pigul v'noser v'tameh. That because if not for the fact that we had a gezer shavat, where the extra words that we're using for the gezer shavat are available to be used in the gezer shavat, if not for that, well then I would logically argue that, well, Pesach is more stringent than Meiser Sheni, because after all, I'm going to read it again, Chayav Olav Mishum Pigul, by Korban Pesach, if you have the wrong intention of when you're planning to do parts of the Avodah, V'nosar, and if you have anything left over, you have to burn it, V'tameh, and you're not allowed to eat the Korban Pesach when you're Tameh. So la'ayaf nuye mufne. So we say, yeah, take this gezer shavet that mimenu by Pesach, mimenu by Meiser Sheni is available to learn how to gezer shavet, to say that an Orel is not allowed to eat Meiser Sheni. Okay, fine, and therefore you can't ask any kashas. My mufni. So tell us more. What do you mean by mimenu is available both by Meiser Sheni and by Korban Pesach? Amar Rav, Amar Yitzchak, Tlosu mimenu ksive bepesach that says Rava, well, it says Mimenu 3 times in the context of Korban Pesach, and it also says Mimenu 3 times in the context of Ma'aser Sheni. Chad Legufe, when it says Mimenu 3 times in the context of Korban Pesach, well, one of them is just, we need it for in the context of Korban Pesach, right? That, it says Lo Sochlu Mimenu No, you can't eat it raw. Okay, so the first Mimenu is just, the simple explanation. But the second time that it says Mimenu, right? And then the third time, so the second Mimenu, is there just to make it available to use in Gzeir Shavet. And the third Mimenu is according to the Manda Omar. Right? One of them is to say that it's a lavanitak le'esei, right? That when it says Vanosim Mimenu, when it says V'lososim Mimenu ad boker, so that second Mimenu is for sort of the next part, and it says Vanosim Mimenu ad boker b'yish tisrofu. Wait, this is the third one, right? No, so I'm sorry. So the third Mimenu is to teach Vanosim Mimenu ad boker b'yish tisrofu, to say that, okay, so you're not allowed to leave it over till the morning, but if you do, this is what you do, this is the remedy, right? To say that you're not going to be chayiv malchus. Okay. Adi dichsiv no so ksiv nami mimenu. Okay. And then, since it says, mentions this nosar, this chiddush by nosar, that you just have to burn it, so it also mentions mimenu. Okay, fine. I don't know, some like weird explanation. Now, since it was like this chiddush by nosar to say that it's so then we also just mention the word mimenu again for some reason. Alright. And according to Mandamu, who says that the third Mimenu is, right, that when it says, Vanos Mimenu ad boker b'yish tisofu, that you didn't need to mention ad boker a second time, right? If you look at the pasuk, it says, Lo sosim Mimenu ad boker, Vanos Mimenu ad boker b'yish tisofu. Why does it need to say ad boker twice? Just say, Lo sosim Mimenu ad boker, Vanos Mimenu b'yish tisofu. Why does it say ad boker a second time? To say that, well, you don't just burn it on the first morning, on the first day of Pesach. Rather, you wait till the second one. You burn it on the first day of Chol HaMoed. Okay, and Adi Dichsiv Ad Boker, Ksiv Nami Mimenu, for whatever reason, since it says Ad Boker to teach an additional Chiddush, that you don't immediately burn it on the first day of Pesach, rather you wait till Chol HaMoed. So it also just mentioned Mimenu as well. Okay, fine. But we see that by Korban Pesach, we said that the second Mimenu is available to learn out of Gzeir Shava. Plus Mimenu Ksiv b'Maiser, and it also says Mimenu 3 times in the context of Ma'aser Sheni. Chad Legufe, one of them is just we need it in the context of Ma'aser Sheni for the simple explanation. V'chad Ledu'ababo, and one Mimenu by Ma'aser Sheni is like Rababo Amar Rabbi Yochanan, as we learned yesterday, right? We learned on Daf Ein Gimel Mud Beis. It says Rabbi Yochanan, the Pasuk says, Lo v'yarti mimenu b'tameh, that I didn't burn Ma'aser Sheni when it was tameh. Mimenu yatamavir, but atamavir shemen shel truma. And we're saying, mimenu, you don't burn Ma'aser Sheni that's tameh, but you can burn truma that's tameh. Okay. V'chad Rish Lakish, and one mimenu is like Rish Lakish, the Amr Rish Lakish, that says Rish Lakish, Amr b'simai, in the Ma'aser Shenitma, shemut l'sucho. How do we know that if you have Ma'aser Sheni that became Tameh, that you are permitted to rub it into your skin? If you have oil of Ma'aser Sheni that became Tameh, you can rub it into your skin. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, V'lo nasati mimenu lemeis, that by Ma'aser Sheni it says, I didn't place from it to a corpse. Lemeis hu lo nasati, or l'chai dumya demeis nasati. So I didn't apply any of this Ma'aser Sheni oil to a corpse, but the implication being that in the same way that I would apply it to a corpse, which I'm not allowed to do, I can apply to a chai, to somebody who's alive. Now, how would you be able to apply oil to a corpse in the same way that you would apply it to a person who's alive? That's a reference to anointing it, rubbing the oil into the skin. And therefore we learn that from Mimenu, we learn out that Ma'aser Sheni that is Tameh, you could use it to rub into your skin. Maskeflor of Marzutra, ve'em likach lo'aron v'tachrichim. Says Marzutra, but wait, maybe what it means, v'lonasati mimenu lemeis, means that I didn't use Ma'aser Sheni in order to fund a coffin and shrouds for the mace, but I would be able to use Meiser Sheni to fund things not for a mace, right? Right? I didn't use the Meiser Sheni to fund a coffin and shrouds for a mace, but I can use it for other things. I can use it to buy clothing for myself. So, Rav Huna Breda of Yeshua Mimenu Migufo. Says Rav Huna Breda of Yeshua. No, when it says Mimenu, it means from the object itself, right? I didn't use the object itself for a mace. Not that I didn't sell it and use the proceeds to buy, a coffin and shrouds. Okay, so if it's saying that you didn't use the oil to rub into the mace, but you can use it for yourself. Rav Ashi Amar Lanasati Dumya Achalti. Rav Ashi says that when it says that I didn't place the Meiser Sheni, I didn't give it for a mace, it's similar to Lo Achalti, that I also didn't eat it. Malaholan Migufo Afka Migufo. That's just like when it says that I didn't eat it. So, right, in a state of Tumah. So, that I didn't burn it in a state of tum. I didn't burn it when it was tamei. It says lo nasatim min l'meis. I didn't give it to a corpse. So just like when eating it, it's talking about the eating the Meiser Sheni itself. Afkan migufo. So also when it comes to the mace, it's talking about from sort of the item itself, from the oil itself, and it's talking about anointing. Okay, so you'd be able to anoint it for Truma Tmeya into your body. Okay. Who? So now the Gemara says, okay, fine, Givald. So what did we say? So we said it says Mimenu 3 times by Korban Pesach. It says Mimenu 3 times by Meiser Sheni. Now by Korban Pesach we said that the second Mimenu is available for the Gzeir Shaveh. By Meiser Sheni, however, we used all of them, right? So the first one we just needed for the simple explanation. The second one we said teaches that you're not allowed to burn Meiser Sheni, but you're allowed to burn Truma. The third one says that you're not allowed to rub Meiser Sheni oil into a corpse, but you can rub it into yourself. So we need all 3. So therefore, the Mimenu is really only available in the context of Korban Pesach, but not in the context of Meiser Sheni. So vakati mufne mitzarecharu. This is only a gzeir shava that is free on one side, on the Korban Pesach side. So all is good if you hold like the opinion who says that all you need is for a gzeir shava to be free on one side of the equation. But if you hold that a gzeir shava that is available only on one side of the equation, you can ask questions on. Well, then I'll ask questions. I'll say, like I suggested earlier, like the Gemara suggested earlier, that Korban Pesach is more stringent than Meiser Sheni. Maybe by Meiser Sheni an oral should be permitted. So, and for the Gemara, Hachtar Babou Midrav Nachman Omer Rabbi Baravua Nafka. Says the Gemara, look, that which Babou had taught that Lo Bi'arti Mimenu B'Tomei, that I didn't burn it when it was tamei, implying that you are allowed to burn Truma Tmeya, because you're not allowed to burn Meiser Sheni, that's tamei, but you're allowed to burn Truma Tmeya. So says the Gemara that you can actually learn out. You don't need to learn that out from Mimenu. You can learn it out like Rav Nachman teaches in the name of Rabbi Baravua. To Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Baravua, Ma'dichsev ani hinenasati l'cha es mismerish trumosai. What does it mean that I have given you the guarding of my trumas, plural? B'shtei trumas hakosu medaber. The pasuk is talking about two trumas, achas truma Torah, v'achas truma tmeya, truma Torah and truma tmeya from Rachmana l'cha. And the pasuk says that I've given it to you. Shachate la'asoko tachas tavshilcha. It's yours. You can burn it under your food. So we see that we can learn out from this pasuk of Anayi ninasati l'chas mismesh trumosai. We can learn out from that pasuk that you can burn truma tmeya. You can use it, as fuel. And the pasuk of mimenu is therefore available for the gzeir shava. So we have mimenu available on both sides of the equation, by Pesach and by Meiser Sheni, to learn that an oral is not permitted to eat Meiser Sheni. Sounds very nice. We had said in the Mishnah that anybody who's tamei is not permitted to eat Meiser. Is not permitted to eat truma. If you're tamei, then you're not permitted to eat truma. How do we know this? Amar Yochanan Mishum Bishmael Omar Kra. The pasuk says Ish Mizera Aharin V'Tzarua Ozav V'Gomer. Right? We said that any person from the seed of Aharin who is tamei, essentially. And now we're trying to figure out, right? And what does the pasuk say? The pasuk says Bakodshim Lo Yochal. not allowed to eat kodshim. So, not allowed to eat kodshim. What does that mean? Not allowed to eat kodshim. So, is it davar sheshaveh bizar shel aharon? Well, the pasuk had said, ish mizera aharon, from the seed of aharon. Now, it doesn't differentiate boys, girls, yingles, midels. So, Mimele is talking about both boys and girls. What's something that is relevant to both boys and girls who are from priestly families? So Yevamos is truma. Truma. Boys can eat the truma, girls can eat the truma. So, and we're saying that if you're tamei, you can't eat it. So we see that by truma, a tamei fellow is unable to eat truma. Maybe I'll say it's talking about the breast and the leg, right? That when it comes to korban shlomim, for example, so the breast and the leg goes to the kohen, and his family can eat it, boys, girls. So maybe I'll say that it's saying that you cannot eat the chaz of a shok when you are tamei. So eine b'chozeres, yeah, but that doesn't apply to all of the children or all of the seed of Aharon, because if you have a girl, right, a bas kohen, and then she gets married to Yisrael, and then they get divorced or he dies and she goes back home, she can continue eating truma. She cannot, however, as we learned the other day, she cannot eat the chaz of a shok anymore. So therefore it's not relevant to all of the seed of Aharon, because in certain situations chaz of a shok is not relevant, i.e. b'chozeres, when a woman goes back to her father's house. Truma nami and b'chalala, yeah, but even truma, it doesn't apply. Chalala can't eat truma. Chalala lavzarish da'aharnu. Yeah, we don't consider a chalala to be the zaro shel aharon, but something that is equal for all of the seed of aharon is truma. And therefore, we're saying that somebody who's tamei cannot eat truma. So now, fact the Gemara, the high adash yitar ad ikahayv shemesh. You hear the kasha, friends? How do you know that when the pasuk says by truma? So it says that if you're tamei and you go to the mikveh, and then you're tvul yom until the nighttime comes, then you're allowed to eat the truma. So how do I know that when it says that until you're tahor, adik ha'ariv shemesh, how do I know that means that once the sun sets, right, once it's nightfall, after you've been tamei, right? So let's say you were, zav or something, a zav bal shtei re'iyos, or whatever it is. So then you go to the mikvah on the last day that you become tahor, and then you're tvul yom till the night, and then you can eat truma immediately. But one second, maybe you can only eat truma once you bring a korban the next day. Let's go weiter for a second. No, that's not the case. That our pasuk in the context of truma, where it says ish mizer aharon v'utzarua, that he got tzaras, or zav, or is a zav. So we taught by the Bismedrash of Rabbi Yishmael b'zav bal shtei re'iyos. That pasuk is talking about a zav who only saw ziva twice. Mitzor musgar, or a mitzor who was never actually determined to have tzaras. He just had to go into quarantine for a bit, and then he turned out to be tahor. Hakasu medaber. That is what the pasuk is talking about. Dumi de tmei nefesh. And it's similar to tmei nefesh, somebody who's tamei mace, as we mentioned in that pasuk as well, right? The pasuk says, "Ishish mizer haron v'utzarua ozav b'kachim lo yochel adash yitor v'anogea b'chol tmei nefesh." Anybody who touches a mace. So we compare the zav and the mitzorah in the pasuk to the tmei mace. Ma tmei mace dilaba kaparu. Just like a tmei mace doesn't have to bring any korbanos when he becomes tahor. Haninami dilab b'nei kaparininu. So also the zav and the mitzorah that we're talking about are not zavs and mitzorahs that would need to bring a korban. We're talking about a zav who saw a ziva twice, not three times. And we're talking about a mitzorah who was never actually determined to have tzaras. Okay, but still, I'll say fine. So when you have a mitzorah who was never determined to have tzaras, and when you have a zav bal shtei re'iyos, that in both of those cases they don't have to bring korbanos. Fine. So in that case, they go to the mikvah on the last day, and then comes the nighttime, and they can eat truma. But in situations where the fellow saw ziva three times, or if the person mamash turned out to be tzaras, right? Situations where you have to bring a korban, well, then not the maisi kapara. Well, then maybe I'll say in those situations, well then the next day, so then you can, in those cases, when you have to bring a korban the next day, you can't eat truma until the next day when you bring those korbanos, v'su and more. So it's not that which we learn in the Mishnah. Tova v'ala ochel b'maiser. Now you have a fellow, he goes to the mikveh, immediately once he gets out of the mikveh, he can be eating maiser sheni. Hayav shimsha ochel b'truma, and then comes nightfall, he can now eat truma. Hevi kapara ochel b'kodshim. And then the next day, when he brings his korbanos, he can then eat korbanos. Can eat kodshim. Minalan. How do we know this? Amar Rava says, Rava, Amar Rav Chizda, Tlasa Kroi Ksive. We have 3 psukim. Okay, the first pasuk says, Ksiv, it says, V'lo min kodshim, that you can't eat kodshim, ki mochatz b'sor b'amoyim. You first have to go to the mikvah. Rochatz tahor. Implying that once you go to the mikvah, then you could already eat these kodshim, whatever these kodshim are. That's pasuk 1. Just go to the mikvah and you can eat it. And the pasuk also says, Uva Hashemish v'tar, v'achar yochel min kodshim. We have another pasuk that says you have to wait until nightfall, and only then can you eat kodshim. We have a third pasuk that says v'chipar la'akoin v'taher, that the kohen will bring the korbanos, and then I believe that this is by a yoledes, that the kohen will bring the korbanos, and then she is tahor. No. So we have 3 cases. We have 3 psukim. One is talking about just go to the mikveh and then you can eat kodshim. The other one is saying wait till nightfall, then you can eat kodshim. The other one is saying you have to wait until the korbanos are offered, then you can eat kodshim. So, okay, tzad. Kan the meiser, well, let's say that the first pasuk that says just go to the mikveh and then you can eat kodshim, it's talking about meiser sheni. Kan the trume, the second pasuk which says you have to wait till nightfall, that's talking about to eat the trume. Kan the kodshim, and then the third pasuk which talks about you have to wait till the korbanos are offered, that's in order to eat kodshim. Now the Gemara suggests, well, maybe I'll switch them around. Maybe I'll say that immediately when you get out of the mikveh, you can eat truma, and you have to wait till the nighttime in order to eat meiser sheni. Mistavre trume adifa. Well, it makes sense to say that trume is more stringent, that you have to wait till nightfall. Shekin machpaz, because it's got machpaz. Now I have to remember what those are. Well, the mem I think is misa. The ches is what's the ches? Oh man, now I gotta look these things up. I totally forgot about it. Wait, machpaz, misa, lo'ochel b'tumas haguf. Right, and chomesh. If you eat it by accident, you have to add on a chomesh. And then you cannot, right, there's no pidyon, you can't redeem it. And it's also for zarim. Okay, so that's machpaz. Okay, fine. So it makes sense to say that truma is more stringent, and you have to wait till the nighttime when it comes to truma, because it has machpaz, those 4 things. Adav, meiser, adifashken, hados tav. Wait, I'll say that meiser sheni is more stringent, and therefore you should have to wait till the night time, because hadas tav, which is, says Rashi, havas makom, right, you have to dafka, right, but meiser sheni, you dafka have to eat it in Jerusalem, vidui, and you also need to, do this vidui thing on it, right, what's the vidui meiser? I don't know, what's the vidui meiser? Is that like Arami Oviravi or whatever? Or, Bi'ati HaKodesh min habayis, mistam, that's what it is. Also, l'onin, it can't be eaten by an onin, u'leva'er mimenu betuma, and you're not allowed to burn it if it's tummy, v'ochlu betumas atzma loka, and if you eat it when you're tummy, that you get malchus, v'chai bebir, and you have to get rid of meiser sheni every 3 years. Okay, so it's got those 5 things. Fine. So afilu achi misa adifa, so even so, still, truma is more stringent, because truma is misa b'dei shamayim, whereas meiser sheni is not. Alright, fine. Rava Omer says, Rava below misa adifa nami lo matzu somart, even without, pulling rank and saying, well, truma is misa b'dei shamayim, whereas meiser sheni is not. Still, I would know that my truma is more stringent. Amar Kra, the pasuk says nefesh, or that truma kilu, is the one they have to wait till nightfall, because the pasuk says nefesh asher tigabo v'tamara orib. Right, that it says that in the situation of a nefesh, so then you just go to the mikveh and you can eat, and then you're tahor. So what is something that applies to everybody? Yevamos is a meiser sheni. Meiser sheni applies to everybody. Kohanim, Levim, Yisraelim. Whereas truma is only for whereas truma is only for kohanim, and therefore the pasuk that says nefesh, and that very same pasuk says that once you go to the mikveh you can eat. So then that's talking about meiser sheni. You get out of the mikveh, you can eat meiser sheni. But still, I'll say, getting back to our original question, I will say that when by truma can you just wait till the nightfall and then you can eat the truma, where you don't have to bring korbanos the next day. If you're not bringing korbanos the next day, so then comes nightfall, you can eat truma. But in a situation where you have to bring korbanos the next day, so maybe you cannot eat truma until you bring your korbanos the next day. So Rabbi says, well, if we look in the context of a woman who gives birth, it says ad melos yimei ta'ara, until her days of purity are permitted. Once she has completed her days, she is tahor. What does that mean? Well, of course, when a woman gives birth, so if she gives birth to a yingel, a boy, so then for the first 7 days, any dam that she sees is tamei dam, but then for the next 33 days, any dam she sees is tahor. And if she gives birth to a maidel, to a girl, so then for the first 2 weeks, any dam is tamei, but then for the next 66 days, she's in a state of purity, and we treat that whole extra space, either the 33 days or the 66 days, as like a tvulas yom aruch, that she's like a tvul yom, she has the status of a tvul yom that entire time. And then it says, once that period is over, then she is tahora, right? Kevin shemalu yomea tahora. Once those days are up, she is tahor. But then the pasuk also says that, and then the next day she brings korbanos, and then she's tahor. Okay, so how could it be that she's already tahor from the night before, when the days are up? And how could it be that she's only tahor then the next day after she brings the korbanos? Okay, it said kan the truma kan the kodshim. Well, for truma, already that night she'll be able to eat truma, but to eat kodshim, she has to wait till the next day. V'epoch ono. But one second, maybe I'll flip it around and say that the night before she could eat kodshim, and only the next day after she offers the korbanos can she eat truma. Mistava kodesh chomer. It makes sense to say that kodshim is more stringent, and therefore you have to wait until the next day after the korbanos. Shekain pankeakis, because kodshim has pankeakis, which doesn't apply to truma, right? There's pigul, nosar, I don't know, what was the other stuff? Pigul, nosar, it's called a korban, that you have to, bring it, lifnim. Right, there's me'ila, okay, panke akis, so I guess the ayin is me'ila. So then what else? Okay, there's me'ila, and then b'shogeg. Okay, v'choris, the kaf is choris, the ochlo, tumasaguf, v'osser, the samach is osser lonin. Okay, fine. So we see that kodshim are more stringent than truma because there's panke akis. Ada, but truma chamur, I'll say that truma is more stringent. Shekein machpaz, because it's got the machpaz that we mentioned earlier. Hanach and Fisher, we say, yeah, but the panke akis is more items than machpaz. Sorry, truma. Rav Omer says, Rav, below hanach and Fisher, even without, relying on, but there's more things when it comes to kodshim, there's the panke akis. Even without that, lo mochis omart, you still would be unable to say that at night you'll be able to eat kodshim and then only the next day can you eat truma, because Omar Kra, the pasuk says v'chipar le'akoin v'tahera, that it says, well, the next day she'll bring korbanos and then she becomes tahor. Michal shi tameya, which implies that until she brings those korbanos, she would be considered tameya v'isagadaitich b'kodshim. And if we're saying that already the night before she can eat kodshim, but she's only tahor the next day after she brings the korbanos, well then ikri kan ve'abaso shiga b'chotom lo yochel, that any meat, any kodshim meat that touches anything tamei cannot be eaten. So if she's only tahor the next day, then how could she be eating the kodshim the night before? So el shmamina, rather betruma, it's talking about truma, that the night before she can eat truma, but only the next day, once she offers her korbanos, can she eat kodshim. Maskevla of Shisha Ber Davidi, Rav Shisha Ber Davidi asks, one second, can you possibly say that the psukim in the context of a yoledes, a woman who gives birth, is talking about truma, said she's allowed to eat truma that night. We learn in the Brisa, that the pasuk in the context of childbirth, it says, speak to the Bnei Yisrael. All I know is people from Israel. How do I know that? Also a convert and a freed Canaanite maidservant. Minayin tam lomar isha. Therefore it says isha, any woman. And if you think that the pasuk is talking about truma, well, a convert and a Canaanite maidservant who becomes a Jew, they're not allowed to eat truma. So how could you say that the pasuk is talking about truma? So Omar, right, meaning if the pasuk is saying that it's talking about all women, well, not all of the women can eat truma, only the bas coins. Omar Rava says, or the people married to coins. Omar Rava says, Rava v'lo. 1 second, is the pasuk not talking about truma? V'oksiv b'chol kodesh lo siga, that it says that while they are in this 33 or 66 day period, which we said that it's treated like a Tfulas Yom Aruch, like a very long period of being a Tvul Yom. So it says, B'chol Kodesh Lo Shesiga, they can't touch any Kodesh. The Rabbis are Truma, said they can't touch Truma. So clearly the Pasuk is talking about Truma, even though it doesn't apply to all of the women. So rather you have to compartmentalize the Pasuk. Parts of the Pasuk are talking about all women. Parts of the Pasuk are talking about Truma, which only refers to, women who are allowed to eat Truma. Okay, but the pasuk can be teaching that already that night you can eat truma. You don't have to wait until the korbanos are offered. Friends, that was daf Ayin Daled of Masechta Yevamos. The first part of the daf, we continue our exploration of if an oral can eat Meiser Sheni. Ultimately, it would seem that we have a Gezeira Shaveh between Pesach and Meiser Sheni to say that just like by Korban Pesach, an oral is forbidden, so also by Meiser Sheni, an oral is forbidden. Then we add some interesting stuff in the context of eating Truma in a state of Tuma, and we made distinctions between Meiser Sheni, Truma, and Kodshim. That by Meiser Sheni, you simply have to go to the mikveh. Once you get out of the mikveh, you can eat Meiser Sheni. For Truma, you have to wait till nightfall, and then for Kodshim, Ti Korbanos, you would have to wait till the next day. Assuming that there are korbanos that you have to offer, for example, a Zav who saw Ziva 3 times, so then only after, or a Yoledes, for example, at the end of her whole period, so then she brings a korban. So in those cases, only after you bring the korban can you eat kodshim. Friends, that was the Ayin Daled Masechta Yevamos. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.